like after we get through NASCAR. There we are. It says we're live. First time, not a halftime stream. What's going on, JJ, Yanni? It doesn't display your name, so I don't know what StreamYard's doing right now. But hey, what's going on, fellas?
I don't know, man. Let's trying to figure out life after football for right now.
I know. I'm trying to figure out what setting to have right now. Like, should I have this setting? Is this too much of our faces? So how about we go with this setting, and then I'll kind of split it up. Yeah, no, it's life after football. And right after, or right before, can't even get the term straight. It's been 2.5 weeks. Right before we started recording, I was like, hey, it's nice to have that 2 weeks off, but it's like, all right, I kind of want those halftime streams back. I want the NFL handicapping, but that's why we're here, to talk about some other sports. We're going to talk about, NBA a little bit, some futures plays, JJ's NASCAR picks. The real reason why we're here today is Sportsbook Review. We'll break down some sports books that we've used. Yanni used offshore books and Bovada because Florida's actually pushing for sports books, right? So hopefully that happens.
And I when I saw the post of that going through today and the bill, I'm just sitting there. I mean, I've never crossed my fingers as much as something for that. So,
Can we get some dice thrown into the equation here for the casinos?
Right.
It's got to be next, right?
You would think so.
Play the cards. Yeah.
How is Florida not allowed it so far? Because Florida, I feel like doesn't give a shit about most things. Like COVID never existed there. Like how has this not gotten to Florida yet? And hopefully it will here by the end of the year.
It's bizarre, but it goes to what JJ was talking about with the casino there. I mean, they let you play blackjack, but they won't let you shoot dice. I mean, what's the difference? I mean, really?
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. I really don't know. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about JJ, I think, could lead us off with some NASCAR, and we'll talk about NBA next and some Top Shot, because Top Shot's taking storm, right?
Yes.
Top Shot
to
buy $100,000 video. Is that what you guys are doing in your free time now that NFL's over?
No, I just YouTube it for free.
That's true. Yeah, you get it for free. I missed GameStop. I missed Dogcoin. I missed Top Shot.
You missed
Doge. What's the next thing?
Yeah.
I just got stupid investments that make money. I don't know.
Probably good that you missed GameStop because that went down. I heard it's going back up right now, though. Like, it's going back up. Like, it's just a disaster. It's just a fucking disaster. And then Top Shot, I'm sure we'll talk about. Tell us about real tangible things like NASCAR, though. They have real race cars that you can touch and listen to.
Yeah.
And
run
things
into each
like
other.
that. Yeah. Daytona was a couple weeks ago.
Daytona a couple weeks ago. Hit the road course at Daytona last week. Which actually turned out to be a pretty exciting race just because people were all over the damn place. But outside of that, we're going to Miami this weekend. So South Florida, just kind of a classic oval, but a pretty interesting track in the sense that it's a rough track and you're going to see tire wear play a factor. So guys are going to be blowing tires and such. So it really rewards some of the smarter drivers and could cause some interesting side effects. So we just got done recording with Paul over at NASCAR Style Odds, his weekly NASCAR handicapping preview, and we gave out 4 plays. I think he's cooking up a couple, and we're going to get into this a little bit when we talk about the sports books, but different sports books have a different release date. So when you look at a domestic book like DraftKings or whatnot, they've had matchups out. They've had a lot of the placing markets as well. But come Saturday, Sunday, you're going to see Bovada, Bookmaker, things like that come out with their own matchups, which are often different than what we get in the early weeks. So it's an interesting way. We'll get into that a little bit when we talk about the reviews. But yeah, there's a couple guys I'm looking at here other than the obvious. Guys like Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, Denny Hamlin are fantastic on these type of tracks, and that's their bread and butter. They got a lot of wins, put themselves in the playoff on tracks like here at Homestead, Miami. But I'm looking at a couple lesser known or less high profile guys, and one is Eric Almirola. He's a Florida guy, but has nothing to do with the handicap. You can't really find a good matchup with him right now because he's going against Kurt Busch, who's been one of our big money makers over the last few seasons. But if you could find him at top 10,
you made me a ton of money with Kurt Busch last summer. It was the first summer that I knew you. COVID summer, COVID NASCAR made me a ton of money. Yeah.
Yes.
Kurt Busch was the cash cow, it seemed like, last year.
He was
Yeah,
definitely the cash cow, and he typically cleans up on a lot of these intermediate type tracks as well. Been a little up and down here because it's a different style, but I got Eric Almirola at top 10 plus 150, so you get a nice payout for a guy who's been really good here in the number 10 car the last 3 years. And then I also took Austin Dillon. I laid the juice. I laid 134 at the DraftKings books over Bubba Wallace. Bubba's had a tough time really getting the hang of these tire wear tracks, and he's really struggled. And it's tough out of the gates for him a little bit with the new team and everything. But it's kind of a dual-edged side of things, a little bit of a fade against Wallace and also a play on Austin Dillon, who's over the last 6 years, I think here, and this goes back to when this was the championship race at the end of the season, where you had 4 guys competing for the championship, really kind of taking over at the end of the race, where guys that weren't in on the championship, like Austin Dillon or whatever, really more or less got out of the way at the end of the race to let the guys gunning for the championship go for it. But even then, he's still been a 12th place guy back then and worked his way up to a top 10 guy the last few years. So it's a play on him as well as against Wallace, who's been a high profile guy, obviously, because of, him jumping on a new team that's owned by MJ and Denny Hamlin. So a lot of high profile things there. He's got his name out, but this is not the type of track you want to back him in.
And can you confirm that banner's right there? Almirola, I think I spelled it right. Top 10 plus 150,
Yes.
And then Dillon over Wallace. Love it. I love the breakdown. Yep. I've been writing all of your bets so far. It's nice that we have NASCAR, literally the weekend. Well, it wasn't the weekend after. It was the weekend of the Super Bowl, right? Did we have a race on the weekend of the Super Bowl? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then
right after.
Yeah. But typically we have a 2-week break between the Super Bowl and Daytona, but it was 1 week this year. So it was just hardcore, just right back into it. Okay. And then for the next couple of weeks, what kind of races do we have coming up?
Let's see. We're back. It's going to Vegas after that. So another, type of mile, but that's usually a pretty good race just because it's hard telling what kind of festivities this year, but Vegas is Vegas.
Vegas will find a way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
COVID's
it sounds like
clearing up. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
People are getting vaccinated.
People are getting vaccinated. I guess
thing.
the weather's supposed to help too. The seasonal thing, not having the flu and all that mess coming into the spring. But yeah, so they'll head out west after this, Vegas and then Phoenix, which is the championship race at the end of the season as well.
Okay. Very good stuff. Looking forward to all of it. We can pivot and to NBA, but before that, I don't know what the name of this Thursday evening segment is going to be. It'll probably keep on Thursday evening. Who knows? It's the first time here. But Dutch, who couldn't be with us tonight, had some suggestions of what this should be called. Some of them probably not appropriate, but let's go down here. And maybe you guys, can give me some ideas as well. So there's Rager Roundtable, Wager Live, which I think I put that as just a generic thing. The Rage Cage kind of has a ring to it. I kind of like Rage Cage. Winning with Wager Rager, that's right out.
False
whacking off with no, so that's not good. And then rimming with the Rager. Jesus Christ.
Sailed off there.
So possibly that last one could be a special segment at some point, but I think I'm going to go with Wager Rager Live for now instead of rimming with the Rager. But hey, creative minds here at Wager Rager for sure. So we'll decide on something, and I think this Thursday evening time slot will be nice as long as if they're having an NCAA tournament, which I'm sure that they are, or I'm not sure, but I'm sure they're going to have something. Those Thursday rounds, like the round of 16 and the first round, those Thursdays are usually jam packed. So perhaps we'll do a tournament show or something like that the weekend before that. Have you guys dabbled in college hoops at all this year? Because I haven't done much so far.
I'll just speak for myself. I have, outside of tailing a handful of bets of people that I follow and respect, I've done very little. I don't know, and it's trended this way for me or really for a while, but I just have not been able to get a good read. And it seems like, especially obviously last year, but this year things are so in flux all the time that it's hard to really even fully grasp. I mean, we know who the good teams are. You can see there's kind of an elite hierarchy of kind of the top four and then maybe the next four and whatever. But at the end of the day, I haven't really done a whole lot in terms of handicapping and really even following up or checking line movement, things like that. College basketball has been a little bit of a pass for me this year.
It's definitely tough because they have so many teams that are on like COVID breaks too. Like some teams are off for 2 weeks and then they come in. Like a couple times I've faded those teams in the first half of the first came back. But what's interesting is that this year is that you're going to have teams in the tournament. Like some teams, I guess, would have played like 28 games. You might have a team that's got like 19 games played. It's all over the place. They're playing like back-to-backs against the same team to try to reduce the travel, which is what the NBA has done also. So it's a tough year. I told myself that I'd get more into college hoops in terms of handicapping. I've done a little bit more in the recent week with the NBA. I'm just trying to dig into some things before baseball because JJ, I know that we love baseball and we'll have plenty of baseball content, which is literally around the corner. Like it's February 25th right now. Spring training's here. Opening days,
5 weeks,
April something. Yeah. So we'll have plenty of baseball content. We love our baseball. You're better at getting up earlier in the morning and handicapping it. I sometimes do a little bit the night before. Maybe I'll start waking up a little bit earlier. So
yeah, definitely. I will be with you. I try to do as much as I can the night before, but and then hopefully just leave it to the fact that, trying to get the best lines and then putting up some content in the mornings of the handicap. So that if I can keep on that schedule, it makes it a lot easier and try to do it all first thing in the morning.
You're wiser and more mature, so you rise earlier.
I'm pretty hyped for baseball, but you guys follow a lot of college basketball handicappers and NBA guys. I mean, we all do. We correspond with several of them. And is it just me? It seems like from the people that we've spoken with or I've chatted with that this has been a tougher, and I don't know if it's COVID related or if it's just something else, but it seems like they're struggling more. People that are generally pretty good at this are struggling more with their handicapping with basketball this year. That's the way it seems and what I'm hearing. And I mean, maybe it's fortunate. I never thought if you'd have told me 6-7 years ago that I would be placing more NASCAR wagers than basketball, I would have laughed. I mean, I would have said there's no way.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
But
I totally agree
you know
with
what
you.
though? JJ can find value with NASCAR. And it seems hard to find that value with basketball right now.
I'm with you. I think that a lot of the back-to-backs have proven to be difficult. Same with NHL. Like a lot of hockey handicappers, which I don't know that many, but some that I trust, they're having a hard time too. Like there's just not as many COVID breaks with hockey, but the back-to-back games aren't going exactly how they had envisioned. The NBA, I've started to get into. Like I took a good week off to just kind of like decompress, go skiing. I fell all over the ski slopes because first time skiing in 30 years. Day 2, I loved it and got a lot better. But like player props, I've dabbled in a little bit, and that's something I told myself that I would try to get better at. And with the NBA, what's good about the NBA is that I know that it's tough, and people, like a lot of people, don't respect the NBA because guys are taking nights off and taking time off. I get it, but I think there's still edges. I think there's still like metrics that you can look at in terms of pace and offensive, like efficiency and shit like that. So like there's things that you can look at to try to improve your handicapping. And the good part to what I was going to say is that the All-Star break is, I believe it's next week, and the second half of the season doesn't end until mid-May. So there's still 3 months left. There's still time to improve and everything like that. So usually you have it going on. Playoffs start mid-April, and this year it's mid-May. It's probably gonna be like May 20th that the playoffs start, which means that NBA finals are going to July, and then it's probably another short off season. So there's plenty of NBA and MLB overlap that we'll have going on. So, but no, I agree, Yanni. A lot of people, I think, are struggling this year. And college basketball, I pay attention to, but this year it's just kind of on the back burner because any given night there's so many cancellations and postponements, and I'm like, do I want to get involved with this?
Sours you a little bit,
sours it for sure.
If you put time into handicap it or whatnot, and things are getting axed, it's tough to really stay strong with it. You do have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Are you really do you really have an edge if you're not even sure they're going to play the game? I mean, I know that's an oversimplification, right. But think about it.
You know what's crazy is when they do at the NBA, when they do their load management and they rest guys and whatnot. I mean, from a betting perspective, that's fine if you can let the public know ahead of time.
Really.
But they're literally making these decisions game time or letting people know game time. By the way, star players sitting out tonight, and it's like that would have been nice to know. So
thanks for letting me know. Yeah, like that happens a lot in the NBA, and it's like, oh well, now I'm screwed. And that actually happened to me a couple weeks back in a team that I'll talk about that I placed a player that I talked about to place a futures bet. But Embiid, who were they playing? And they were on the West Coast. And I thought that Embiid was rolled in, and it was like 8:00 at night, and the line was 7. And I was like, honestly, that's way too many points. A half an hour later, it was like, oh, Embiid's actually sitting tonight. Like he was rolled in, rolled out. They got their asses kicked by like 22. And I was like, dude, why?
Speaking of that, I don't follow the NBA very closely at all, but just kind of looking at headlines and things like that. What's going with the Lakers? Is it Davis being out? Is that why they're playing so poorly? Is he that big to that team?
Good segue. Perfect segue, because that's something that I want to talk about. So I made 2 futures bets here in the past week. One is Embiid MVP at 4-1 on DraftKings. I got it. I want to say it was last Saturday. Yeah, last Saturday. That's down. You can get 3.5-1. I saw 3-1 this morning. It was either FanDuel or DraftKings. So always price shop. Embiid, I know, is sitting out at times. Embiid, I think, for my mind and for what I think he's the best player in the NBA right now. If the Sixers can pull off that 1 seed, which is going to be difficult because the Nets are right there too. But the Nets, here's the thing, like with the Nets, like say they pull off the 1 seed, their guys are going in and out. KD's out for like another week right now. Kyrie's taking time off. Harden got traded there a month ago. None of those guys, KD I guess could get it, but I doubt it because he's sitting so many games. None of those guys get the MVP. LeBron is still the favorite, and I think he got down to, I saw a plus 150. It might have even gotten down to plus 140. LeBron is the favorite. Could he win it? Of course. It's LeBron James. Will the Lakers get it together? Sure. They were 9-point dogs last night without Anthony Davis, JJ, to your point, and they got their asses kicked.
They got smoked, yeah.
I think if the Sixers get that 1 seed, even 2 seed, don't fall off, and I don't think they will, Embiid should get it. I'm looking at his stats right now, averaging 30 points per game, 29.8. We'll see what happens tonight. 11.3 rebounds. He's got a few assists per game too. I mean, he's legit. He's, for my money, the best player, the most impactful player when he plays. And sure, he's a big guy. He'll take nights off, but there's a lot of back-to-backs right now because they're trying to jam these games in. It's like, all right. So that's one of them. And what you're saying, JJ, is it Anthony Davis? Boy, I don't know. Like, are we seeing LeBron start to hit a wall right now? Because, I mean, he's not old for some people's metrics and standards, but he's 36. He's going to be 37
he's played
this year.
A ton of minutes in his career.
A ton of minutes. That offseason that they had was 2 months, a 2-month offseason. Yeah. If I'm the Lakers, I just sit him down through the All-Star break. Like, just give him some time off right now. Like, what's the point of playing LeBron without AD? It's just a disaster. Try to go into the trade market, shore it up, give LeBron some time off, because you got 2.5 months left after the All-Star break. And then you've got the playoffs. It's like, and you know, say that they go to the NBA Finals, which a lot of people think that they will. I mean, they are the Lakers. I doubt that they're going to go out first round. Depends on the matchups for second round, but they're going to play, you would imagine, into June or maybe even July. And is that another short off season for LeBron? I mean,
who's the bottom half? Who do you think the bottom half of the playing field of the playoff field in the West is?
It's still a little bit early.
Who could they draw in the first 2 rounds that could cause them trouble, I guess? It may be too early to even think about that. So
that's the thing, too. It depends how far they fall right now. Like, I think they're down to the 3 seed, and I'll pull it up right here. But say that they end up with the 4 seed, like it's wide open, like 4 plays 5, right? Like, I think that Anthony Davis comes back and they end up climbing up to like the 2 seed, and they might get someone like Golden State in the first round, like a 2 versus 7. Wow. And I need to take a look. I know that the playoffs have a different style this year. And I think it's 6 teams are guaranteed in, and then there's like a play-in for 7 through 10. So let's say that they're 4. Portland's lurking at 5. So it's wide open. And the NBA is pretty good, kind of like the MLB. Well, I would say that in terms of the international presence, in terms of commissioner, I'd prefer the NBA, but they're good about including more teams in the playoffs. And that's what the NBA is trying to do. And that's what the MLB continues to do. Right. So,
yeah, we'll see.
Really
I think
hard.
That's still up in the air, but
yeah, very much.
It's really hard to like that Lakers roster. I mean, in my opinion, I mean, again, obviously top loaded with LeBron and AD, but I don't know. And look, down the playoff stretch, they got some good minutes from some guys. Some aren't there. Dwight Howard gave him some minutes. He's not there. But, they overall, I mean, they got some decent play down the stretch from some other guys last year. But honestly, that roster is not anything that you write home about. I mean, you got 2 perennial MVP type candidates with LeBron and AD. But after that, I mean, it is a massive drop off, right?
I think so. I 100% think so. And it's just hard to root for that team because they're just complaining all the time about fouls and everything like that. It's like guys forcing themselves onto the Lakers. Yeah. And they won the title last year. And like, I don't know what it was, but I just didn't even really care that the Lakers won the title. And maybe it was because it was in the bubble, but I feel like if like the Heat won in the bubble, I would have been a little bit happier. But I was just like, it just doesn't do anything. Yeah. We'll see what happens. So that's the first bet. Embiid, I probably shouldn't even put up plus 400 because I saw 350 this morning. So I don't want to screw people over because I got 400 last week. But
do you have the odds up? I can pull them up if not. But do you have current MVP odds up?
I can very quickly. Very quickly.
Curious.
Embiid,
I always
3-1 on DraftKings.
3-1 Embiid.
3-1. Shit.
DraftKings, yeah.
Okay.
Is these leagues, and it doesn't matter if you're talking NBA, NFL, MLB, more and more they make it about the storyline and less about the sport, unfortunately, in my opinion. And it sounds like the bitter old guy, but
no, I agree.
But you look though, and the only pushback I would give you, first of all, I think there's great value there, and you laid out the case well. So I'm not arguing with your play there. But I think the only, I guess, pushback I would give, or if I'm playing the other side of the fence, is the league would love to give Steph Curry an MVP if Golden State is even remotely in the mix there. Yes. And same thing, if somehow the Mavericks can, get healthy and get things rolling and make, some kind of move into the playoffs there, they would love to give Luka that MVP. So, that's kind of my only concern when you take a guy that the league doesn't like. For whatever reason, the league doesn't feature Embiid the way that he should be. They don't give him the credit, respect, in my opinion, at least. It's kind of the same old core group of players. And even though he's right there in that mix, he doesn't seem to get the love that the Steph Currys of the world do. So
Giannis,
I look at that.
Luka.
Yeah. And
right.
that would be my only concern, is even if Embiid was deserving, if it's close between, say, him and Steph, are they going to give it to Steph? I mean, it's kind of what it goes back to when we were talking about the Super Bowl and who gets the MVP. Somebody would have to play out of their mind to take it from a quarterback or to take it from a Brady or Mahomes. Same type concept here. It's like, can Embiid be that much more impressive, and can the Sixers do enough to, give him that nod over Steph or Luka if their teams are in the mix? Now, like you said, they can pull off the 1 seed and Golden State fizzles, whatever. I mean, it's hard to argue that, but that's my only thought on MVPs in general. I'm very, very, any future MVPs, I'm always looking now at who the Twitterverse, who the media, who the darlings are there, because for whatever reason, it's weighted so heavily now, and it's just not about the actual play as much as it was 10, 15 years ago.
I'm really glad you mentioned that, and we could probably do a whole podcast on the MVP. So in my mind, there's 2 threats to Embiid. Well, probably more than 2, but the 2 biggest threats are Steph Curry. He's having an outstanding season. If the Warriors can get into like that 6 seed and the top 6 seeds are locked in, and Steph keeps doing what he's doing, I think that that's a legit threat. And his odds are what right now? Is it 11-1, 18-1? Steph Curry, 14-1 at DraftKings. It was 18-1 a couple weeks back. It's very rare. It's very rare to have an MVP come from a team that's not like top. It's usually top 2 in your conference, top 3, we'll call it. The exception will be Russell Westbrook a couple years back. And there's a lot of people that voted for Westbrook over Harden that have said, I kind of regret that vote, like, to be completely honest. And it happens for sure, but it's rare. And Steph Curry is kind of one of those guys that he bounced back. He's the face of the league. That's a true threat. So if you're on team no LeBron for MVP, you could shop around Embiid for sure. 3-1 is getting a little bit low. Maybe he has a piss poor game, and I got to take a look at the stats, but shop it on the weekend and perhaps you can get 4-1. And maybe you bet a little bit on Embiid and Curry. The other threat to this in my mind is LeBron had that awesome season last year. Giannis got the MVP and the Lakers took the title. People think that LeBron was the best player in the NBA last year, but they had to give it to Giannis second year in a row because of the stats. This year, I mean, he's had an outstanding start. Maybe it's just, a blip right here, and he closes strong, especially if they get AD back. It's almost like a lifetime achievement award because I don't think LeBron wins another MVP. And that, I think, is why that the odds are so low at plus 150. And maybe you see it tick up a little bit more. I mean, if they keep losing games, I mean, who knows? It could be Embiid tied with LeBron in a week or two. But I think that he's going to hit, a point where another short off season, long season this year, 37 years old. I mean, he's probably, he could play to he's 42, 44, I'm sure, at a high level, high-ish. Like he probably has 3 good years left, but it's not going to be LeBron that we saw even last year. And I think this is going to be give one last one to LeBron. It'd be what, number 5? And that in my mind is the biggest threat. But Steph Curry, man, he's having a hell of a season. So that's my MVP spiel for right now. So we can keep an MVP tracker on that and touch on that as we go along. But can't count the Warriors out. No Klay Thompson. They're 18-15. They've won 2 in a row. Before moving on to Sportsbook Review, which is taking us a while to get to, I'll do this in like 30 seconds or less. I bet on, and it's a straight value play, the Miami Heat to win the Eastern Conference at 16-1. I got it on DraftKings Tuesday morning. Wow. Miami Heat have won 4 in a row. I know that they're still sub 500. They're 15-17. I think they're low water mark. I mean, I could just do simple math. -4 is 11-17. They weren't really gelling. So I don't know if, they came out of the bubble quick off season and they were just like haven't put it together, have some injuries, but they're starting to click right now. They have a shitty division. I mean, they're going to win that division. Charlotte, Orlando, Washington's in that division. I think they keep riding the ship. They're going to be in the playoffs. They should be one of the top 6 teams. And if they're rolling, if they continue to click how I think that they can click and what they did just 4 months ago in the bubble, 5 months ago at this point in the bubble, I think they're a top 3 team. Like they'll give the Sixers a run because I'm a Sixers guy, but I know what can happen to them in the playoffs. I know they have a new coach. The Bucks are down. Yeah. And we know what the Bucks do in the playoffs. That's kind of like, not get to the NBA final. So for my money, 16-1, that's something that I took. And I'm sure I'll be adding some more value plays as we go along. I'll probably start posting some NBA plays also. I had a good one that I was going to post last night. I looked down and the game had already started, but it was Spurs were coming off a week, maybe 10 days off from COVID. And they played OKC, and OKC was a pick or a 1-point favorite in the first quarter. And I took OKC because it's just tough to come off COVID, man. So that's kind of a couple of the angles I've been playing is just fade teams coming off that long break. So, all right, Miami Heat and Embiid. Should we talk Sportsbook Review? Keep it to maybe 15 minutes here. We'll kick it around and we'll talk about our experiences with it, pros, cons. If we like the book, we think it's a shitty book. I don't even really have an agenda in terms of who wants to talk about what, but Yanni, we'll start with you. The most common book that you use, you want to give like a rating, user friendly, just kind of talk about it for a little bit, and then we'll kick it around also.
Sure. So I will say I do like shopping lines very much. Um, in Florida here, I'm a little bit limited with my options. I obviously generally have to go offshore to do whatever I'm going to do. But I would say I have accounts at a few different books, but I will tell you that I do use Bovada almost exclusively.
Okay.
And even though it's funny because my version of shopping lines is almost more about looking for line value based upon kind of what the market's doing. So, as an example, I'll check out a DraftKings line to see kind of where their spread is, what they're doing, and compare that to Bovada and see if you have a favorable line based upon that. So it's almost kind of a sideways way of trying to get some closing line value if you want to look at it that way. But that's more of how I'm forced to shop being in Florida. There. So anyways, Bovada is my go-to, and based at least for my 2 cents, I think their platform, I think their site is better than say Bookmaker and some of the other sites out there. I think that it's a pretty user-friendly site. They very rarely have website issues, glitches, things like that. It's an easy deposit withdrawal as far as that goes. There's no there's no hiccups with that I've experienced. I don't make 6-figure bets, so I can't speak to limits and whale plays and that. But I mean, generally they their limits are fine. Again, if you're a $1 million bettor, I don't know what Bovada will handle that way, but their limits are good. Their customer service is good. I've had a couple instances where I've had to correspond with them about different things, and they generally are pretty quick and I think pretty responsive. So, there hadn't been a lot of big problems or challenges there. My biggest complaints with Bovada, number one, they're often late getting lines out there compared to a lot of the other books.
Yeah.
JJ was talking about NASCAR. I mean, you have to wait till a few hours before the freaking race in NASCAR to get lines for that. But that's often the case too, even with the major, NFL, NBA, MLB. Like they'll put their player props out morning of, or even afternoon of in some cases. I mean, a lot of times as an example for NFL, they might have and player props for the 4:00 games might not even come out till 1:00 or 2:00 in the afternoon, or whatever.
Yeah, then it's hard to pick off any value because they've seen how the lines moved at other books, and it's like,
and so I mean that's a little frustrating. I mean we obviously we're looking for edges and we put our articles out, but I always have to go to places like FanDuel and DraftKings and other books that get lines out quicker. So I would say that's my number one complaint with Bovada. I will also say that as a kind of a generality, for whatever it's worth, Bovada is more of a dog-friendly book. So if you like betting underdogs, you usually get a little bit better value, I think, in Bovada than some other books. If you like betting favorites, you're usually laying a little more juice than at some other books, and depending on what it is. So again, going back to that shopping around thing and whatever, but overall, that's my go-to. I think as far as offshore goes, unless somebody can show me something better, I like their consistency. I like their feel of their site, user friendliness, customer service, placing bets is easy. One other quick thing that I don't like, they do have different options as far as like prop builders and parlays. A lot of people like to have fun and put a couple bucks on 6 or 7 different bets, whatever. They do have some options, but they don't have a lot when it comes to that. You can't necessarily build your own bets like you can on, say, a FanDuel or a DraftKings or that. So, that would be the other, I would say, complaint or negative I have with Bovada. And I don't do a lot of that anyways, but, sometimes you want to have some fun. If there's a full day of games going on and you just want to, put a small bet out there and take a crack at a big payday. So anyways, that's my breakdown on Bovada. And I am excited for Florida to hopefully pass their legislation. So I do potentially have some more options here moving forward.
Yeah, hopefully you can get in on some more options. JJ, do you use Bovada? I do use
I
it
do.
at times. Yeah, I do use it, especially in the NFL season. I mean, it's in my top 3 to 4 books, I'd say. They have lines on like everything. Like at times you'll have like certain books, like Square Books won't have like a tennis line for some like low key tennis tournament. Bovada will always have it. I do agree that that's a dog book. It's not a book to bet the favorites. The promos aren't as good as some of the books up here in the Northeast, but there's so much damn competition that they have
Well,
to have
yeah,
those promos.
the domestic
Yeah.
ones, they feel like they have to do all these promos and advertising, and I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, right.
But
Yeah.
you're right. The offshores don't as much, maybe deposit bonuses or welcome bonuses or whatever, which is fine. But I think you're also starting to see a lot of pushback against the FanDuels and the BetMGMs, points bets, even that are really limiting players. And, we're talking about an industry that's just a few years old in the Northeast and, basically not Nevada. So you're seeing a lot of pushback there. I haven't seen quite as much against a book like DraftKings. Maybe the big argument is, in my perspective is, I had a Sugar House account. I signed up for DraftKings as well, but it's the same back end odds generator, the same company, Canby Book, that does those.
Yep.
So you can't really play them off of each other. However, they both do oftentimes give, 20% bet boosts or whatever it may be here and there, funny promos that, can be good value depending on the underlying handicap. So those are always really nice. But I think the biggest thing with the legal books are the apps. The apps are, well, they vary from one to another, but I find the DraftKings app to be fantastic, not just for the DFS, but for the sportsbook. It's a great app, wonderful really app, and that's what it would be really nice to have for the offshores. But I understand why they can't, because they're not really supposed to be operating here. And so the way of the Five Dimes went last year, that was, speaking of a really unfriendly website as far as navigating and all that sort of thing. But I'll tell you, they were a fantastic book when it came to early openers. NASCAR, they had matchups up Monday night for the following race. Baseball, They have stuff up overnight. So they're dearly missed, but obviously they had a DOJ issue and something a lot bigger. But their customer service sucked. They kind of, they're the mobster running the joint. And so that whole thing sucked. They would back you off on, I'd find a college basketball line that was, maybe a couple points different, 3 points different than another book, and I'd hit it. Wow. And then you get an email a few hours later saying, stop doing this. And it's like, stop doing what?
It's like, so, well, you posted the line, so I'm going to fucking bet it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, no, that was an error. So they started to get a little sketchy with that from time to time. So you had to be careful with not ruffling too many feathers. But we found out the hard way with Bovada, and it sounded like there was a lot of pushback on Twitter when it came to, I forget what it was, but we all took that Didi Gregorius to return to Philly. And they still had the other books took it down after it sat, and nothing was finalized. And here's the thing, and I'm getting way off track, but we three of us hit that bet. Because
on
we
like
saw
a
the
Saturday afternoon about a month ago or so. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and we all hit it, and we're feeling real good about it. Went up to a max. They were only taking $50 on it. Okay, whatever.
But it's a free $50, man.
$50, but then we all got it canceled, and it was kind of like they basically said you're past posting, and it's like, no, that's not how that works, because they can't be asleep at the wheel. But the thing that bothers me the most is the bet was, who will he play for on game 1 of the season? The bet hasn't resolved. They could trade him. Realistically, he's not guaranteed to start for the Phillies on game 1. So I thought that was kind of raggedy, but at the same time, somebody was asleep at the well, and they're offshore, so they can get away with it. But I do like them as a book, and they're a nice counterpart to Bookmaker. Like Yanni said, when it's NFL season, if you're looking for under in a dog, go to Bovada. If you're looking for favorite in an over, I mean, these are broad generalities, but if you're
Sure.
looking for favorite in and over, go to Bookmaker. And the good thing about Bookmaker as well is they don't really limit people too harshly, and they don't back you off as a winning player. And I think Bovada's not that bad either as far as reputation. Again, I'm not, betting six figures, five figures, to be honest, so I don't think that's an issue. But even if you do have a repeated, kind of if some of these domestic books peg you as a winner, they're really going to do everything they can.
Yeah, they'll shut you down real
limit
quick, man. Like
Yeah,
all
I
those
was going to
books,
ask you
man.
guys. I was going to ask you guys the question because this, I would say, particularly over the last year, has become such a hot topic in the betting world, and it just seems like all of these books, whether we're talking legal, offshore, in-person sports books, whatever it is, it seems like they're at a point where they're dictating the rules of what they do. And it almost seems like they're making the rules up as they go. Obviously the Didi Gregorius that was a perfect example. And, again, that's a small example of a $50 max bet. But,
yeah, right.
When you hear some of the bigger bettors that are out there and you hear kind of what the books are doing to them, and then we have our own instances where the book decides, we decide this is the way it's going to be. And the regulation, my question to you guys is, the regulation of this almost seems non-existent. I mean, it seems like one of the only industries where the book can basically say, nope, we get final call, we do this is what we're doing. And there's like no oversight to that.
Yeah, it's like
well,
who can challenge that? Like, and
right,
you as a
right.
bettor can challenge it, and they can be like, well, those are the rules. It's like, does the state get involved? Like, and to be honest with you, that's one of the things that I get concerned about. It's like if they start taking advantage of certain things, like does the government get involved at some point and say, maybe not shut it down entirely because there's too much revenue and taxes, but it's like there's got to be some oversight to a certain extent, because I know a lot of people, and I've heard of a lot of people that have gotten bets canceled or just bets shut down. It's like or just close the book entirely, and it's like, for what? Because I had a hot 7 days.
Yeah, I mean, offshore is obviously one thing, just because it is an unregulated market. They're basically just operating off of, they do walk a fine line between, if they canceled things egregiously, I can see their perspective on the example of the Gregorius thing. Or I think the big thing that raised a stink was the Stafford to the Rams
Stafford
deal,
one,
where I think they canceled a lot of bets domestically. But as far as the licensed books, they do answer their license holders. They answer to the various gaming commissions in the different states, however they've set them up. It's different from state to state. Obviously, anybody has the right to file a complaint, but like anything, if it's unbased or if the player was in the wrong, it's probably not going to go far. But some of these issues that we've talked about, and that had been high profile over the last couple of years, say in New Jersey. I can't remember exactly the circumstance, but there was an outcry on how one of those big operators handled something, and the gaming commission did step in based on a complaint. So it's almost like a consumer protection thing, but they're obviously not going to harass the license holders because they're bringing in revenue for the various states. So it's one of those deals where it just depends how much how cynical you are of the system and the people with the money, basically.
Yeah, I mean, with that said, it's nice to have all these books. It's nice to have these options, especially here. It seems like the Northeast has it more than anything. I mean, Colorado is pretty wide open with things also. Yeah, so that's nice for some people that I know in Colorado. Should we talk, what book should we talk next? Should we talk FanDuel, DraftKings, JJ? I'm going to leave it up to you.
I opened an account in FanDuel, but I never funded it. I did both them and DraftKings at the same time.
Okay.
And never funded the FanDuel. I did fund DraftKings to get into some DFS,
Yeah, sure.
Go, especially with Yanni's articles during the season. It was a no-brainer. Basically he's giving you a menu of who to choose, and I think that worked out really well. But then I started to see some of the promos they were giving out on the sportsbook side, promos, They do a pretty good job of just giving you some free bets here and there, but the boosts were fantastic during, again, they're max bets. They're not huge. I mean, they're maxed out at like $50 bets to use these promos on. I get it.
Yeah, but
No
it can
big
be a
deal.
free $50 a couple times a
Yeah,
week.
exactly. Or boost up you basically take one of those props where, you're going to have to lay like 130 juice or something like that, which isn't huge, but for the most part, we're playing, props that have our pick'ems on either side. But you find one where it got a little lopsided or whatnot. Well, you
Yeah.
throw a boost on it and it brings it back down, or even makes it plus money. So I found that to be especially helpful during the season.
For my money, and when I'm betting my money, I think that DraftKings has the best app. I think they have the best options. I like their underdog options too, but they're not like heavily juiced. Like you'll go into some books, and that's with Bovada. Sometimes they'll juice those player props a little bit much. And I noticed that about Barstool also, which we probably won't, talk too long about that book, but there's a reason why their handle is like above anybody else right now. Like Barstool is just charging a lot of money and just ripping people off because it's a recreational book and people are just, I love DraftKings promos. I think that the layout of the app is great. It's just sleek. It's like some books you'll pull up, like for golf, I'll pull up FanDuel and like, it's not difficult, but to navigate to like outrights versus top 10, 20, you have to click around. On DraftKings. They just have it all displayed and they have all the lines in front of you. So if you want to see like Justin Thomas, what his price is to win outright versus top 20, it's all right there on the screen. You can just click on it. It's just ease of use is great. And the promos, man, like FanDuel, and we can talk about them as well here. I've used FanDuel probably the least out of Bovada, which I've been using for years. Bookmaker I've been using for a few years. Bet Online, I got involved with a little bit this NFL season. I'm not going to say that I was overly impressed with them, but apparently they used to be better. FanDuel, DraftKings. FanDuel I used a little bit. They had some decent hockey props last summer, but and some people
I remember you talking about
like with
the goal
with block
saves
bets.
Or
Block bets, and then they took it down pretty quickly because I think people were just kicking it off.
It was soft.
FanDuel has some nice promos also. Same game parlays if people want to do that. I'm not a big same game parlay guy, but what Yanni was saying, it's like every now and then, if say that you had a good Sunday and you want to do something on the Sunday night football game, just put $10 on something stupid, and you can't do that at all books. But FanDuel, they have it like pre-set up, and it's sometimes they'll have kind of like a boost on it to make it a little bit worth your while. So
same game correlated parlays went away for a reason, because when people found a really strong edge and dogging under or whatever it is, that's a good way to leverage basically a handicap in two different elements and then get paid extra based on the parlay. I mean, it just like anything, and I don't want to go too far off the edge, but the whole thing with the Barstool and the massive amount of handle and hold, especially it's the hold, not the handle so much.
It was so much last month, dude. It was so much.
And then, I kind of look at it and I'm like, well, I'm 43 years old. And it's like, whether it's a bunch of younger people that don't know what they're doing, and they think this is the best way to make a bunch of money is just keep throwing at, high leverage things. So be it. You know what I mean? You're either going to learn that that's not the way to make your bankroll last, or they're just having a hell of a time and they're having fun. And if that's the way they want to do it, so be it, because these books have to make their money from some people. Not everybody's going to be the sharpest bettors out there. Otherwise it just doesn't work. So I say, so be it. I mean, it's not for that type of betting is not for me. But hey, to each his own, and it's also buyer beware. If you don't really know what you're doing and you're throwing your money down and you're doing it, you have to be prepared to lose it. You can't be mad at anybody else but yourself.
I know. I mean, it takes me back to my days when I was, early college, and I was betting on Pinnacle, maybe. Like Pinnacle wasn't even shut down in the US yet. Sportsbook.ag, which don't use that book, anybody. Sportsbook.ag, but I used to use that. And because I didn't have that many options, but like you learn the hard way. And I think that there's a lot of people learning the hard way. But what sucks is that I think a lot of people are buying into Barstool, which it's only legal in Pennsylvania and Michigan. So they made all this money and it's only in 2 states right now, I think.
Yeah, and that's something.
Just wait till it goes, to the other 48. which it could take a while for some, but
Are they
hopefully Florida's
are they on the
next.
same Canby platform as DraftKings and Bet Rivers Sugar House too?
That's a good question. I think so, but don't quote me on it because I know that Park, Sugar House, DraftKings are all in the same.
Yeah.
One of the books creates their own lines. Is it FanDuel? Because should probably research this a little bit. But there's one book that's creating
FanDuel, I think,
their
does.
own. Okay,
Yeah, they book their own stuff because I seem to remember because I'll go up to the Hollywood Penn National Racecourse. They rebranded their book. It's Barstool. But if you go to the kiosks, for the sports betting kiosks, the web interface it's not like an app. It's like the Sugar House website, which is garbage, but it's the same
it's
lines
so
and all
bad.
that sort of thing.
It's so bad. Should we talk about we probably even shouldn't talk about Sugar House because it's so bad. I mean, Sugar House, I bought into it last year.
I mean, I use it.
Because
I
don't have
a
money
bunch
in
of money
right
in
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was betting it because I think you were telling me to use it for NASCAR or something last year. And Sugar House, it has good lines and it has, I think I got some kind of promo, but like they don't have an app in Pennsylvania. In Jersey, I think they do, but there's no app. So you have to use this site and this shitty like geolocation thing you have to download on your phone. It's just, it takes forever. It's terrible. Like and you're going through the web interface.
It's a mobile friendly website. But here's what I do. Because most of the times I'll bet the heavier amount or portion on Sugar House because that's where most of my money between those two books are on the same odds. But I'll surf and I'll look on DraftKings, whether it's DraftKings website or DraftKings app. I'll search for what I'm looking for, and then I go and we'll book it on Sugar House often because it's a nightmare finding this stuff.
Definitely. Hopefully Yanni can get some of these books soon. Hopefully Yanni can get DraftKings. Like if anything else, DraftKings and FanDuel's not a bad book either. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I spend so much time on DraftKings Sportsbook and I can't place a bet on it.
Just to shop lines.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm on there regularly and I can't place a bet. And I mean, obviously I use it for DFS and I love their DFS platform like you guys said. So I mean, like I said, I'm crossing my fingers as hard as I ever had that they get this thing passed and we can get some options down here in Florida.
Hopefully it'll get down there. Here's a question, and maybe I should know this, but like when it comes to these sports books, say that because in Colorado, I know that they passed something that like the juice has to be more and like taxes have to be more in certain states. Will there be different lines in different states when it comes to these books? And that's something maybe that we could research and talk about more, but I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I listened to I think it was a podcast. I can't remember what it was. And they were talking about kind of that in general. And I think a lot of, say FanDuel, DraftKings is fairly uniform across the nation, but maybe BetMGM, because they have licenses in New Jersey as well as Nevada. I think they have different odds in Jersey than they do in Nevada.
Because I know certain books, the offshore books at least, different people will have different odds. So like if they think that like you're super sharp on something, then they'll just kind of dissuade you or persuade you to bet something.
Right. And exactly. They do shade things, and a book like Bookmaker that doesn't back off winning players. I mean, they have there's a limit, but it's not like the FanDuel limits of $1.11 or something ridiculous.
Right. Yeah.
They will often provide, let's just say they have, a handful of guys that they know are great baseball handicappers. They'll give them early lines before they send it out. They post them to get basically to let them bet into it for a lower level, but to find out where they're going with things so they can tighten up their lines. It's very uncommon, especially with the domestic operators. Maybe one like Circa, who's in Nevada and Colorado, uses that type of technique. They want to use the sharp players to mold their line and to get a better number out there for everybody else to bet into.
Definitely. In terms of the sharpest books, in terms of sports books, I think that bookmaker is there. It was Bet Online for a bit. I don't know if that's as sharp, but I'd say that domestically, I've heard that DraftKings is the sharper of the books, and that there's certain things on DraftKings that whales pick off, and DraftKings doesn't change that in terms of like live bets that they pick off, and they don't change it because they want them to keep their money there, because they'll eventually lose it on like NFL and like soccer and shit like that. So there's certain things that DraftKings is like, we want these people to stay. So I think DK has the sharpest. BetMGM, I haven't even looked at, and that's legal for us now in Pennsylvania. Jersey, I know for sure. I don't know. And then there's another one. There's like WinBet or something. That's brand new. Like there's like a new one every week.
I've heard nothing good about BetMGM for whatever that's worth. I've heard nothing good. No, really? I've heard all bad. I can't speak to that personally. So I mean, that's not me saying it, but anything I've read, seen, heard about BetMGM is thumbs down.
Yeah, my one buddy was talking about, I'm trying to remember what he said, that there was some sort of risk-free bet. He put some money in, and I think it might be difficult to, get your money out. But yeah, so BetMGM is not on the top of my list. In terms of getting money out, I'd say that most of these books are pretty good. Bovada, I've used crypto. In terms of getting money by check, is that something you can do in Bovada? Because I usually use crypto.
You used to be able to get money by check. I'm not sure if you still can, to be honest. I don't know, but they love crypto. I mean, that's what they prefer. But you can also have it deposited to a bank account. So that you got options there.
Crypto coins, altcoins, Top Shot coins are taking over the world, guys.
Withdraw your money with some Top Shot. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, you got me. Yeah, I'm going to miss that. One's going to fly right over my head. That's for sure.
We're approaching the hour mark. I think we'll do a Top Shot segment in the coming weeks. I have a couple buddies, one good buddy on the West Coast that's really plugged in, and he told me to try to get it into Top Shot just to buy packs, like those $14 packs about a month ago. Was lucky enough. The one I got was like the general public got. But the one that I got was kind of like lucky and random. It was a cool cat pack, to which I was like, what the hell is a cool cat pack? But that $9 or $14 definitely paid off. But I'd caution people against buying anything in the marketplace at this point. There's a lot of things that are overvalued. The website doesn't even work. Like
I see a lot of people they try today.
They try all these drops. Like today was supposed to be like a rare pack. And they couldn't get the website going, and then there was an issue with bots. So it's just buyer beware. If you're able to get a pack, if you're able to get chosen for that, spend $9, sure. But I caution against buying anything in the marketplace. Right. But that's a whole nother conversation for itself. That
the easy money conversation.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Didn't it just has the feel of some kind of like Zach Morris get rich scheme on Saved by the Bell. Like we're going to get these videos and we're going to charge $100,000 for it to be great.
Yep. There was literally somebody that bought a LeBron rare or a LeBron legendary for $208,000.
I don't get it.
And he's not playing good basketball right now, but apparently it was a Series 1 because there's Series 1, 2. It started last summer with Series 1, and people who love blockchain and crypto, and like, I admire what it's all about. I by no means trade crypto, get that much into it. I think that there's a lot of dog shit coins. Like there's some cryptocurrencies that have a use, I guess, but there's a lot of dog shit coins like Dogecoin. Like you should just call it dog shit coin. But it's like, I admire the whole blockchain thing, but this has gotten out of control right now. It's like
for sure.
Just like shitty players are going for hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. Yeah,
it's a different way to gamble. Yeah.
Just wait until people can withdraw their funds, because you can't. I mean, some people can, but there's so many people in that they don't have the processors to withdraw the funds. And once the market suppresses, all things have a bubble. The bubble pops. And but hey, if you can get yourself a pack for $10-15, why not? Because someone out there is might buy your moment, because it's not a card, or buy your moment for $1,000 if you get lucky. So It's like gambling. It's like scratch off lotto, just videos of NBA players passing the ball and shooting 3-pointers. Sometimes a dunk.
Sometimes a dunk. Hey, Gus the Groundhog. Gus the Groundhog here in Pennsylvania. He's got an app now, so you can play lottery scratch offs on your phone.
Keep on scratching, as Gus says. Second most famous groundhog in Pennsylvania. Yanni probably has no idea what we're talking about, but we're gonna send him a Gus the Groundhog commercial.
Yeah,
I only know Phil or whatever the other groundhog's name
Phil's
is.
number one.
Yeah, well, as soon as we hang up here, I'm gonna send you a Gus the Groundhog commercial, and you'll see what Gus is all about. Keep on scratching. So,
send me that LeBron Top Shot too while you're at it.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely probably like a 15, 20, even 30-minute segment that we could do about Top Shot. I had some moments, sold some moments because I didn't think that it was gonna, take off to what it was. I sold a little bit early. It's just like anything else. It's just it's here this month. Will it be here next month? I don't know, man. It might be something else. It was Wall Street Bets in January, and now it's Top Shot in February.
Question is where when do MLB shots come and NFL shots? And is it going to make it that far? I don't know.
I don't know, but here I just pulled up Twitter, and Cincinnati Reds account said, "Happy 58th birthday to 1990 World Series champion Paul O'Neill. I'd like the top shot of him kicking the baseball from the outfield." So count me in on that one.
Thing.
That would be a quality one to own.
That would be quality. Like if they start putting together like throwbacks of like hockey fights and like stuff like that, like
throwing the base.
Yeah.
And Lloyd McClendon taking it with him into the dugout. Yeah, see, those are the sorts of things we need on moments.
I wouldn't mind the Kirk Cousins. You like that? Can you get? I get dibs on that. How much is that running?
We'd send it to you, D. Nice.
Yeah, cool cat of you like that. Yeah. Just buy that one up, and then I'd buy one of Carson Wentz throwing a pick six. Which is a whole nother conversation that we'll have like plenty of content and podcasts for weeks to come, but we didn't even touch on Carson Wentz trade and stuff like that. But these top shots, I do think that digital collecting is the future, but I'm skeptical about what's going on right now. And also, once more and more sports roll out their own version of Top Shot, some of the money that's in NBA will get dispersed. So I think it is here to stay, but I think don't buy it right now because your money's not going to be there to stay past a couple weeks from now, because it's kind of like just like any other bubble. It's just a matter of when it pops and how hard it pops and will it bounce back. So we'll see that. So, all right, fellas, good conversation. It's been a couple of weeks, so it's good to get back in the saddle for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll do it again sometime soon. I'm sure we'll do something next Thursday. Probably try to get one of the golf guys on, talk about round one. The Rager golf team's been doing well, as long as they're not betting on Tony Finau.
Well, stay away from Finau. I listened to your show today.
Top
number two.
Just bet him top 10.
I was going to say, just bet him top 5, top 10. You're probably good.
Mm-hmm.
He's hitting that every single week. So had a good time on the golf podcast this week. Talk some Tiger. Talk some. What the hell is the name of the tournament? The WGC Workday. Yeah. So we'll have that coming every week, and I'm sure we'll do this Thursday live stream. The Kiss of Death
that is known as the Puerto Rican Open.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't even know who's going to win that this year, but if they win that, then they're probably screwed. And they're probably not going to win for the foreseeable future. Exactly.
That's the last one you're getting.
Definitely. JJ and Yanni, appreciate it, fellas.
All right.
We'll talk to you real soon.
All right.